Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. The show is designed to give you solutions to your day-to-day management and leadership problems. It's hosted by Matthew Haddock, a frontline manager and leader with over 25 years of experience. If you're ready, then let's get on with the show.
Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show and video show. Thank you for joining me today, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the show. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you want to give it a thumbs up and subscribe and share and tick and do whatever the heck you do on YouTube, that'd be absolutely brilliant. So what's this week's show about? Well, this week's show, we're going to examine problems and the idea of problems within business. Now, as a leader, you probably know that problems are everywhere, and every problem seems to be your problem, because that's how it goes when you're in a leadership position. The problems just seem to mount up. Well, not anymore. Let us look today at how we can solve problems in our business and also in our normal life. Now, most of the time, when you join a business, you're there to help solve problems, because your boss or the company owner will have problems and you have the skills or the potential skills to fix those problems. Now, problems can come in big and small. You can see daily problems that come along and you have to fix them, and they're just part of your job. And there's the big problems, the big catastrophic failures that sometimes sneak up at you as you lead your teams. But how do they do it? Well, let's think of problems in an aircraft analogy. Let's think of problems as drag. And their problems are dragging back your business. So if you think of it, if you've got that idea of a stoppage or a breakdown in your procedures, that puts drag on you delivering your service or your product to your customer. If there's drag in the IT systems and there's a problem with those, then it'll stop you interacting or invoicing correctly. All these things create drag on your business and it pulls it back. So if you think of a plane, it's adding more weight or it's causing obstruction for the air to flow over the right areas of a plane. So in your business, that's what the problems are. Now, a lot of the time in our working lives, we put in workarounds. We find small solutions that we think will fix the problems. And these workarounds are there to fix an issue. They're a puncture repair kit over the small hole that you've picked up. But they're not meant to be a full-time solution, but they do. They do over time become that full-time solution, because over time you forget or you leave them or you allow people in your business not to deal with them. Therefore, the small repairs become bigger repairs and then they never get fixed. And that's a problem that you're really going to encounter a lot of these small fixes. And the workarounds then become the norm. Another problem you'll see in a lot of businesses are bottlenecks. So a bottleneck is a part of the process that runs slower than the others. And it's a bit that, as it says, sucks it down a path of resistance. So you think of your drag again, it's starting to slow them down. And these bottlenecks can really hurt the way you produce your products, how you can produce your service. So bottlenecks are a major problem in businesses. And they can obviously cause lots of problems which will stop you doing what you need to do. I mean, the first thing you need to do when you're looking at problems is assess them. So you need to assess, firstly, do we have a problem? And that can sound really simple. Well, of course you've got a problem. If these things are broken down or we've got bottlenecks or something isn't working, then there's a problem. But a lot of people don't see the problems. As I've said before, you've got that used to having them that you don't see them as a problem. Therefore, they get stuck there and they never get fixed. So you've got to really identify what the problem actually is. And that's something that can be hard on your own, because you will see a problem a certain way. And if you're in that company a while and you're getting used to it, always been doing it that way, then that problem will become a fix and it will always have been like that. So what you really need to do is pull in resources from different areas to try to fix your problems and try and brainstorm what the actual problem is. Now, of course, you'd say there is some obvious problems. If something has snapped and it needs fixing, then you fix it. Yeah, fair enough. But why is it snapping? Is it snapping because it's been poorly maintained? Is it snapping because it's been put under too much stress? Is it snapping because it's run too fast? Is it snapping because people don't know what they're doing with it and are doing something wrong? You can fix it, but sure as eggs are eggs, the problem will come back because the snap will happen again. And that's why a proper brainstorm with a number of different people from different departments with different diverse experiences will soon get to a better solution of what the actual problem is. But don't rush. Don't rush at this point to then jump to a fix. Because of course you know what the problem is now, but you're going to rush down that road and try to fix it straight away. But that doesn't mean you've got to the root cause. The number of times that I've been in meetings where an individual or a department have claimed great success and we've fixed it and the victory is ours, only for it to go wrong again a couple of weeks or a month down the road. And that's because we're not assessing the problem properly to start with, and we're not using the tools to get to a root cause. So you need to make sure that you're picking a plan at this point that can fit to fix the problems you've got and fix them forever. So you've got to choose the right plan. So that's the first thing. So you've got your guys together and girls, you've done your brainstorming, you've decided what the problem really is, and now you can start to look at what it is to assess that problem and try to execute a plan that will fix it. And of course, don't ever stop going around that circle of seeing if what you are fixing is going to fix it or actually create more problems down the road. So there is nothing worse than having a poorly thought out plan, which is then poorly executed and, surprise, surprise, doesn't deliver the results of fixing the problem that you are. It's also good to gather data. Make sure that you're gathering data as you go through this process. A, to make sure that you are hitting the problem correctly, but also B, at the end of this process, you can be confident that the fixes that you brought in and the 100-year fixes you are doing are actually fixing the issue. If the data doesn't show the improvement, then you've not really fixed the problem. So gather that data and then work through the model of what it's going to look like. So you're analysing the gathered data and you're looking at what that solution could be. And then there's a good time now to breathe and stop and pause, because again, there is a tendency to rush and to fix what you think the problem is. So take the time, and what I do in part of my problem solving is to plan in times of stop, pause and think. It's worth doing that because of course you want to get the problem fixed as quickly as you can. And put a bit of a caveat to this. If the place is on fire, you really do need to put the fire out. So don't worry about the rest of it. But I'm talking about problems that have been there a while that are causing hindrance to what you're doing, and you really need to get a fix, but you haven't got an exact solution straight away. So it's good to plan in a pause and stop and breathe and consider your options. Problems can be complex in our world, as we know. Lots of interactions and lots of wheels are within wheels. So it's also known that your flexibility in your solution has to be important as well, because a rigid fix that you think is perfect could soon become out of date if you don't build in some flexibility into that. And of course, there is, as I've said, there is no such thing as a quick solution, but there's no such thing as a perfect solution. We're always moving. It's very fluid. So what you think is a fix now can soon rear its head. Let's go back to our snapped piece of equipment. You think you fix it, you've done all the work, you've improved it, but then it becomes a bigger bottleneck because it doesn't break anymore, but it runs slower. So you've not exactly you may have solved the problem of the broken the shaft on the conveyor, for instance, but you haven't then fixed the bigger problem of how do you get the stuff through the door and make sure it works. I always think that using a good mind map or a logic ladder is a good way to identify if you have identified the problems properly and done it right. So it's always worth looking at those tools in a bit more detail and seeing if those were the right way to do it. And of course, balancing risk versus reward. When it comes to a problem in safety, which can be and will be one of the biggest things you may encounter, you can put a perfect fix in and make it very, very safe. And that's a great thing to strive for. But your risk versus reward, if you make it too safe that the machine can't run, that might be the right decision. It may be worth saying we don't run that machine because it's too dangerous. But if it gets to a point where the risks have been mitigated and you still don't run the machine, then you soon don't produce the products you need or the services you require. Therefore, you fail in the idea of rewards. So you can make it as safe as you can, reduce the risk, but the rewards are you won't have anything to produce. So just play those in mind. And of course, remember the idea of being important and urgent. So, as we said, a fire is definitely urgent, need to put that out. But other things, you may have to take your time. And don't forget to go back around that circle. Because, of course, you go through it once, it fixes it to a point, but it's worth always continually going back and saying, have we fixed that problem properly? And have we fixed it to a good level that's going to make this place work better? Remember that problems will still be there. You will fix one and another one will come up. But the tools you need to do it, the idea of gathering data, bringing a team together to focus on the problem, making sure you take a time when you have a solution to breathe and think it through, and then to revisit and go around the circle again, planning, doing, checking and acting to make sure that you can fix your problem forever. Well, that's my ideas on problem solving and how you can deal with it. I'd love to hear your ideas on how to problem solve, so please send me an email to managermattpodcast@gmail.com. Love to hear your feedback, as it's a gift. And obviously there's a number of other videos on this channel if you want to have another listen to, but I'd be interested in new ideas that you want to send through, so please do send those ones. And I've said before, please click and subscribe, and if you can get that little bell to work, that'd be brilliant. Well, that's it for Manager Matt this week. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to this Manager Matt podcast. We hope you found it interesting, helpful and actionable. One last thing, please leave a quick review on iTunes or with your podcast provider, as it helps to spread the word of Manager Matt. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you did like anything in particular, send an email to managermattpodcast@gmail.com or visit managermatt.co.uk for more content. Feedback is a gift, so let's keep giving. See you next week.